Recorded at WMEB Studios at the University of Maine, it's time for All Three Phases.
Tompkins left, Brady throws it to the end zone for Kenbrell Tompkins, leaping. He's got it! Touchdown! Patriots! Kenbrell Tompkins! Brady's back! That's your quarterback! Unicorns! Show ponies! Where's the beef?
Welcome back to All Three Phases, Episode 3, March 30th, 2015. Almost closer to April, which means we're closer to the draft. And that'll be mostly what we're talking about today. Brandon Poli, along with Cody LaChance. How you doing on this fine Monday morning, Cody?
Good, very good. Always ready to talk some Patriots and obviously the draft. I love the draft, so I'm excited to really get into it now.
You're
this week.
Draft fiend. I've never met anyone who is so obsessed with the NFL draft as you are. My roommate likes to watch it just to make fun of people, but as you know, my roommate, he likes to he likes to rib people. But regardless, we will start. We'll save the draft stuff for later in the show because that's going to be a majority of it. We're just going to do a quick recap of what's happened since last week, and it seems like doing the show on a Monday is kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It hinders us in getting some of the best news out because some of the best news happens directly after Monday. And this week it was the NFL owners meeting. Which a lot of Patriots related things in that, and I wanted to get your opinion on them, Cody, because I talked about them on our radio show here at WMEB 91.9, our weekly sports show on sportsmanlike conduct. But you weren't there to give me your opinion, so I wanted to hear that. I guess we'll just start with the hot button topic of that came out of that, which was a new rule being passed. Making the ineligible receiver trickery that the Patriots pulled against the Ravens, it would make that illegal now. Personally, obviously as a Patriots fan, I think it's bogus because I just see it as kind of petty, kind of type of, oh, well, they didn't break the rules, so now we're going to make it so it is a rule because it's trickery and we didn't like it and blah-de-blah. And, of course, the Ravens tweeting that out, the whole debacle with them misspelling ineligible, which made me laugh. And I know on our show on last Wednesday we talked a lot about it, and I was talking with non-Patriots fans throughout the week, including on the show. Our good friend Spencer Emerson, who showed up on the show, I don't know who his an NFL affiliate is in terms of who he's a fan of, but I know he told me he's not a Patriots fan, but he still agrees that this rule change. He first of all didn't even realize he didn't understand why this even came up. Like what caused this? Why should this even be on the table? He said it also sounded petty and kind of silly, but I mean, hey, it's gone through, so it's a new thing. And I think I already know your opinion because I'm pretty sure I played it on air via Teddy Bruschi. You go ahead and change the rules. We'll just keep winning.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I think about it. I figured that it would get changed. The outcry from John Harbaugh after the game, you know, the saying goes, the squeaky wheel's the one that gets the grease. So I actually just wrote an article for the main campus right here at UMaine. It's the Krampus edition this week.
The April Fool's edition, which
right.
comes out in 2 days.
And I described John Harbaugh as a little boy who is in the grocery line, the checkout line with his mother, and cries for the candy bar. And because he cries and cries, he finally gets it. So that's
an accurate representation.
This is Harbaugh's candy bar. The rule now states that if a player is wearing an eligible receiver number, they cannot declare themselves as ineligible. So I think that would be 1 through 19 because technically a quarterback can be an eligible receiver. So it's 1 through 19. 20 through 49, so you can get running backs and fullbacks in there, and then 80 through 89, which is obviously your wide receivers, tight ends, and obviously tight ends can wear numbers in the 40s as well. But we see it, this is the second time we've seen it now, after the 2003 season, when I believe it was the AFC championship game, the Colts came into Gillette and got just beaten up. I mean, hits that if you go back and watch the tape, they would be flagged. Every single one of them today.
Didn't you send me one of those? I think it was Richard Seymour or Rodney Harrison.
I think it was, probably the Rodney Harrison one. But
that was absolutely just mind-shattering hit.
Flying into guys, helmet to helmet, leading with the crown of their helmets. And now, and then after that season, the NFL stepped in and said, nope, you can't do that. Bill Polian, the Indianapolis Colts, cried about it, and they got changed. What happened the next season? Colts come into Gillette, and they get spanked again, and that was where the Teddy Bruschi clip, go ahead, change the rules. You still got to come into Gillette. You still got to come in here. We'll keep on winning.
Come to Foxborough. It's going to be snowing. It's going to be cold. Come on in here. You want to say all you want? You want to change the rules? Change them. We still play, and we win. That's what we do.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal clip.
Oh, it is.
But coming back to today, I don't think that this really does affect the Patriots as much as other people may think it is.
Yeah, no. They used this play 4 times. In how many years have they been winning like this?
And I mean, I think they had that in their back pocket. That was a break glass if necessary type thing.
They did.
Bill knew that this was going to happen. And the fact that remains, the Patriots were one of the teams that actually voted to turn this rule.
Did they really?
It was 32-0.
That's hilarious.
So they voted for it. So Bill, being the, I guess, evil genius he is.
Retire the secret weapon. We're done here.
Or I don't want people using it on me.
There you go.
So obviously they're not upset about it.
Smart choice.
I think us as Patriots fans, we're mad about it because it's kind of, whining, we can't beat you, so we're going to change the rules, running to daddy, but...
Well, and see, here's the thing. I kind of like the comparison with the 2003, although I will point out that I think the 2003 one is a little bit more warranted with the whining because that's actually, detrimental to a player's health, hitting helmet to helmet, that type of thing, and we've seen that come more and more into light. I feel like the Harbaugh situation is more of just a whining about something that, like the Harbaugh situation is him crying to his mom in the grocery line for a candy bar. The other one is complaining that, is like him complaining on the playground that some kid hit him over the head with a brick. Like that type of thing. Like one is actually detrimental to someone's health. The other one is something that doesn't really matter. So when you really think about it, like I said, or like you said, that was like 3 plays out of how many they did this season. That Baltimore game was literally, they knew they had to do whatever they could to win. So they looked in their back pocket and say, okay, like we know Bill Belichick loves to put out trick plays when he needs to, but he's not going to do it to be cute. He's going to do it to win. And so we saw it with the Edelman pass, which was a beautiful throw, by the way. And then we saw it with the ineligible receivers. And of course that brings up the thought in my mind. You talked about maybe Tom, like the quarterbacks having being able to be ineligible. Maybe we'll see some sort of loophole with that.
I hope not.
You don't want to see Tom Brady line up as an ineligible receiver and just fall back.
I instantly think of, I think it was the Jets that ran it. It's always a Vine or a GIF that I see on Twitter all the time when they line up Sanchez out as a wide receiver.
Oh no!
And the cornerback just kind of like, he doesn't come at him, but he fakes him a little bit.
He fakes him, and Sanchez just poops himself.
Yes. That's
oh my
what
goodness.
I always think of when that.
Do you think
happens.
Tom Brady would seriously flinch at that though?
Yes.
You think so?
Yeah.
Dude just jumped off a 40-foot cliff.
I think it's. Oh God. We'll probably get into that later. Let's save that for later, I think. But no, I think, like I said, I get the rule. I'm not necessarily glad that they changed it, but I get it. I understand.
Yeah, I get it as well. I do think it's kind of petty though. Like I will adamantly say that I could have done without this rule change because, this is something that they've brought up in college, something they do in college all the time. I feel like you're just taking away another trick play that makes the game more interesting to watch rather than, 2 teams just trying to butt heads and get nowhere. And then you see one team pull something out of the bag like, hey, look, we've got a trick play. Like, I like that. That's why I love watching college football, let alone the NFL. But in the NFL, you don't usually see trick plays anymore unless they're from teams that are struggling and have really nothing else to lose. They're like, let's get cute with it. Whereas to Bill Belichick saves these for very special situations. And luckily, we saw one heck of a game with the Ravens where he was able to pull a couple of those out. I think it's, I don't know. I could do without the rule change. I guess, I don't know. I don't know what to think about it because the Patriots agreed with it. And I guess it is a case of Bill saying, I just don't want to face it. And I guess when all is said and done, I'm okay with it. I just think it could have been. We could have done without it.
Yeah.
I feel like I wanted to see someone try it on the Patriots and have the Patriots not fall for it.
Well, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have fallen for it because when the referee points at a player and says, "Don't cover him," and on the loudspeaker it says number 34 is ineligible, I think the Patriots players are intelligent enough to recognize that, oh, well, that guy isn't an eligible receiver. I don't think we need to cover him.
Are you insinuating that the
I'm
Ravens defense...
I'm insinuating that Terrell Suggs was an idiot and decided to cover Shane Vereen, and I love the fact that it was Terrell Suggs was the guy who covered him.
Suggs?
That just made that play great for me because I can't stand that clown. The comments he made after the 2012 playoff game, just get out of here. I couldn't have been more happy that he was sent on his way. But I will give him credit. After the game, when Harbaugh did cry about that play, Suggs said, it's football. If you've seen one gimmick, you've seen them all. That wasn't cheating. That wasn't dirty. Move on. I will give him credit for that, but besides that, any guy that dumps bleach on his girlfriend and his children is
allegedly
horrible.
Allegedly.
No, he did. Anyways.
We know, okay, a lot of times when we say allegedly, we know someone did something,
I
but
know.
we're just doing it for legal purposes. Moving on to other owners' meeting stuff. Bill Belichick was not done creating a ruckus in terms of the conversation as he was the irony and the joke of this just is overflowing in my mouth when I say this, but opting for more cameras in the end zone, and of course he set himself. I as soon as I read that on my phone, I'm like, Bill's just setting himself up here for the internet trolls to go crazy, and I love it. No, he wanted more cameras in the end zone to try to solve calls that are overturned in the end zone, saying that there's not enough angles. I'm okay with it. I'm stammering. He put out a statement or like an example. Someone put an example online. I'm not sure if it was Bill, but there was a really good example of why someone would want this, because there was, like, you get an obscured view of, like a couple corners covering the receiver and not being able to see where his knee hits, et cetera, not being able to see if the ball crossed the plane when his knee hits. I mean, why not? Why would you not want that? Like, if you want 100% sure to make sure someone scored without any shred of doubt, why wouldn't you?
I don't know. That's what I can't figure it out here, because the league always talks about integrity, and the NFL is one of the richest sporting leagues in the world. I think the only one
aren't they
that
also
is more...
aren't they also technically a nonprofit?
Technically.
So they're the wealthiest nonprofit.
But anyways, I don't get it. They could easily put cameras. I believe Belichick wanted something like a GoPro in the pylon.
That would be dope.
That he wants something, not, you know what I'm saying, not an actual stick of GoPro in there, although I'm sure if GoPro got the advertising for that, I bet they would just do that.
They would they're salivating over that chance.
But that's a great idea. You can see when the ball crosses the plane. You don't have these issues of did it cross, didn't it cross, of the bad angles. Because honestly, what I've seen on Twitter and read in articles is I'm pretty sure the NFL cameras actually aren't as good as the CBS ones, the Fox ones, the ESPN ones. So actually the replays you are seeing at home aren't quite as good as the ones that the refs have to determine to overrule or keep the play, which is funny to me, because some of these plays that get challenged, and especially within the 2-minute drill, when obviously the coach doesn't challenge it necessarily, but the booth reviews it. Those are some seriously big plays that affect how games end and seasons go and playoff races and everything. So I don't
whether or not Des Bryant caught the ball.
Hey, there you go. But the way that it sounded is they were going to table it. Belichick was spitting fire, I guess. He was super mad about it, saying, this is a joke. It's just, it's just money. It's a not even a drop in the bucket for the NFL to do this.
It's not really.
I hope that they come back and do it. We'll see. Belichick.
Yeah, that got overturned, didn't it?
For now, I think. But like I said, I think they're going to come back and look at it again. Belichick obviously is not the most loved guy in the coaching association or union. Obviously, I think this was the first year in I don't know how many years he actually came for the coaches photo, the annual coaches photo, which was kind of funny.
That's funny.
So obviously he wanted to get some goodwill back to get that rule passed, but I hope that it passes. We'll see. It's something to keep an eye on. I'm sure that we'll probably touch on it again later when they come back to it, but like I said, there's nothing not to like there, really.
Yeah, no. Continuing on the NFL owners meeting topic, I'm not sure if you wrote this down, but I wanted to touch on it because it just hit. Bill Belichick also lobbying for another new rule. I know last year he was really into trying to eliminate the PAT or making it a little harder. This year it was more about penalties, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but he wanted the rule to be that you could challenge a flag like you would challenge any other play.
Or
but,
a penalty.
Yeah, challenge a penalty like you would challenge any other play, except it would count like a challenge. You'd get 2 a game and a third one if you get both of them right, and if you don't get it right, you have to give a timeout. And I believe the rule was you can't add anything. You can't add a penalty. You can only either negate it or downgrade it or something like that. Like if it's running into the kicker, you can't upgrade it to roughing the kicker. It has to be either running into the kicker or nothing. Like say the kicker flops without being touched.
Right.
Like you can challenge that flag if you see that the player didn't hit him. I kind of like that idea. I know a lot of people instantly when they hear, oh, you can challenge penalties, instantly go, oh, the game's going to take forever now. It's going to be like a 10-hour event because they're going to challenge everything. I'm like, dude, you can't challenge every play. It's going to be a replacement for a challenge flag. And I think I like the idea because there are a lot of times where you'll see a kicker flop without getting run into and they'll get running into the kicker called. Or you'll get a roughing the kicker when it should be running into the kicker. And then you say, no, that wasn't roughing, that was running into, and throw the flag, and that type of stuff.
Well, just like you look at the Super Bowl even, that's the first thing I look at right at the beginning. I think it was the Patriots' first drive when they got a running into the punter, I believe, when it was actually roughing the punter.
Yep.
A play like that could have gotten a challenge flag. So I agree with the call. I obviously love that. I instantly think back to the San Diego game when they called Browner on helmet-to-helmet when it wasn't.
Wasn't helmet-to-helmet. Dude, that's exactly why I want this, because there are so many times where a quote-unquote defenseless receiver will get absolutely lit up, and they'll be like, oh, it's helmet-to-helmet. And you look at the replay, and it's shoulder-to-shoulder. Helmets don't even touch. And it's stupid to me. And I feel like that should be a challenge. If you may and I feel like coaches would use it wisely. Say if there was a helmet-to-helmet contact on a super long play that would have been a huge defensive stop for New England, but then you had to go replay it because of the helmet-to-helmet contact. I feel like that would be a good place to throw it, especially if it was shoulder-to-shoulder. And I feel like Belichick would see something like that, or someone up in his booth would tell him, "Hey, throw your challenge flag. That wasn't a penalty." I just feel like there's way too many. I feel like Bill has just too much. Too many people out to get him. There are a lot of people who look at. He could advocate for more animal shelters to help homeless puppies, and people would still go against it somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I think that should be a no-brainer. I know a lot of other coaches agree with him, and they want to see a rule like that in place. But like we said, I think that should be a no-brainer. And it won't slow down the game. You'll still only have 2 challenges, so you'll just have to use them wisely.
So moving on to Patriots injury news. Got a couple players in surgery with the regular season about 6-7 months away. Nothing too much to worry about, I think, in my opinion, but we'll just delve into them very quickly. Of course, Chandler Jones and Dante Hightower, 2 of the big names on that defensive line, both having surgery. I know you have more information than I do because you've looked more into these injuries. Jones, I believe, is a hip, and Hightower is a shoulder. Timetable you said they've set is they should be back before the regular season. Is that what I'm getting, or by the regular season, I should say? Yeah,
Hightower. They set his timetable 6 to 7 months. He had the bad shoulder he played with for most of the season. Actually, even in the Super Bowl, I believe he re-injured it to a level where if it was a regular season game or maybe even any other playoff game, he would have come out of the game. But
are you saying that the Patriots also had injuries in the Super Bowl?
Isn't that funny?
Isn't that funny?
But no, he came back into the game. Obviously, what's pretty amazing too is what was the game-saving tackle when Marshawn Lynch ran the ball to the 1-yard line before the Malcolm Butler interception. Hightower actually brought down Lynch with his bad shoulder. So that kind of shows you the grit and the guts that a guy like Dante Hightower has. Obviously, you being a big SEC, college football guy, I'm the same. I love big conference college players because I do believe that the more big games you play in, the more prepared you are to play on that stage.
Absolutely.
And Hightower, really came to answer the bell.
And of course, I love seeing players from smaller schools get selected. I love seeing our Maine Black Bears in the NFL, but I mean, there are it's a completely different league playing in D1, D1A versus D1. The bowl versus the conference. But I completely agree with you. The more big games you play in, the more ready you are. And as when we look at our draft prospects, we'll talk about that a lot. Is who's NFL ready? And Dante Hightower. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, no,
nothing more you can ask for. The guy is an absolute tank. Bringing down Lynch with his bad shoulder, like you said. I have had nothing but good things to say about this guy. I'm pretty sure a lot of Patriots Nation, when they brought him in, they traded up for him, and they were like, oh, well, hopefully this works out. I say Dante Hightower was definitely worth it. Chandler Jones, on the other hand, I know you want to see a little bit more from him. I, of course, am going to be a homer and love him because of just his principle, his character, his family line. I love John Jones is my favorite UFC fighter. So there's that going for him. Although John Jones has had some stuff going on as of late, but he's getting himself better, and I'm proud of him for it. But
by no means am I saying I dislike Chandler Jones. If anything, I'm just saying
you kind of wish wish you saw more.
I was expecting more from him for being. They actually traded up for him first, and then they traded back into the first round of the 2012 NFL draft to get both these players.
Wheeling and dealing.
Right. So he's put up pretty good numbers, but he hasn't quite taken over games the way that I want him to. This year, he took a couple big steps in taking over games, obviously against Minnesota, the big block the field goal, scoop it up, and score. And then I look at the Buffalo game right before halftime when Buffalo was hanging in there, the first one in Buffalo. He gets in the backfield, strip sacks Kyle Orton, scoops up the ball, and the Patriots ended up scoring there to end the half. So Chandler Jones, obviously I do think he's a good player. I wish that he would have put a little bit more out. He has the hip problem that sidelined him for a few games this past season. He has no timetable. I'm assuming both of them will be ready for the beginning of the year. And something to monitor really is the fact that both of these players are in a contract season now. So we'll see how they respond to not only having to come back and prove themselves after these injuries and surgeries, but also in playing for that next contract. So, and obviously another name to think about going forward with the Patriots in, defensive contracts is Jamie Collins. All three of these guys are going to be up around the same time. And as a Patriots fan, and as, as much as I try to keep it level-headed, I will say that I can't imagine all three staying. I think that it will be a combination of two of these guys with the third one walking, and I'm going to make a prediction really quickly. I do think that Chandler Jones will be the one to leave. I think he'll want too much money. Pass rushers get paid at an immense premium in today's NFL, and I just can't see the Patriots overpaying for Chandler Jones when, like I said, he hasn't quite lived up to what he was drafted for. And that's, I think, when we get into the draft here, there might be some defensive ends that I put out there that might take his spot.
Yeah, but and also you say coming into a contract year, coming off of an injury, how is that going to affect his play style? You would assume if you follow anything that his family does and follow the kind of lineage they have, you would think that he would come out, guns blazing, trying to reprove himself. Knowing that he's not entitled to anything, taking a line from our school's basketball team, knowing that he needs to go out there every day and prove that he deserves to be on that roster. And then I don't feel like it would be a case of overpaying if he does prove himself. I think it would be a case of giving the man his money.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
Saw that movie this weekend. It was amazing. I'd never seen Rounders before.
You just knew the quote.
Ultimate must watch. Everyone should go watch that movie. It's on Netflix. It's long, but Matt Damon, phenomenal.
Matt Damon.
Phenomenal.
What I was going to say is then you get into the aspect of him being worth that money, and then the Patriots kind of, wincing on not paying him because, we've seen that happen before. But again, this is all speculation. This is like the conversation we're probably going to be having this time next year. So hopefully it doesn't come to exactly that. Hopefully it comes down to, what a great season we had on our way to Tom Brady's 5th Super Bowl ring with Chandler Jones getting 50 sacks this season. Yeah. Something stupid like that. If he gets 50 sacks this season, you heard it here first. I'm not going to hold anything to it. I'm not going to hold a candle to it. But yeah. Another player, Silver Saliga, I think you mentioned.
Yep. Yeah, he had a foot injury. He's still in a walking boot. I'm sure he'll be fine.
At least he's walking, though.
Right. Obviously, he's a big player going forward now that Vince is gone to fill in for that defensive tackle role. You have Salinga, you have Alan Branch, and a personal favorite of mine, Dominic Easley, who actually I predicted the Patriots would take in the first round last year. I have no proof of it because I wasn't doing these shows then, but I did predict it. I was very excited.
Is that your whole ruse with the show? You just want to be able to record every single draft pick, so that way if they get it right, you can ride off to the sunset in your blaze of glory?
I'm not quite locked in like I was with Easley. I think it was 2 weeks before the draft I really locked in with him. I had some other guys that I really wanted, but when it got closer to the draft, I really thought that he was the guy they were going to take if he fell, and obviously, thankfully, it did happen. But I think we'll see who I think the Patriots, some guys that they might draft in the first round coming up here.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because we're going to start now with some draft stuff.
With the 29th pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Dominic Easley, defensive end, Florida.
So we'll dive right into it. This is the official all three phases NFL draft preview. We will start at defensive tackle. Obviously, all of our conversations will be centered on the New England Patriots and guys who we think they will be interested in drafting. So that a lot of factors go into that. Obviously, they're not going to pick guys that are going to go top 10 or most likely not. So those type of guys,
you say that.
You really never know, but obviously we will be looking at guys more available towards the end of the first round, and then after that.
You might say that we're going to be looking at all three phases of draft types as we look at people who are going to be, top-of-the-line guys, people that we don't expect to be by the Patriots' first pick that might end up being there by some sort of luck, some sort of draft stock dropping. People we most likely will get in the first and second round, things that are people who are more likely to fall more than these top tier guys, and then the mid round guys, the guys who are more of a safe bet to get, and that's really what we're going to be talking about. We have some. Cody has his big board, which we've been looking at. We've got some options here to look at. Also, some people we just want to highlight, people who stood out to us. Cody and myself. I know he personally made the list and pointed out guys, but I remember giving my opinion on them before we even added them to the big board, saying I like this guy or I don't really like this guy. I don't think this guy will be as good. So I'll let you start, Cody, since you're the draft hound over here. You're super into this. This is like Christmas for you.
Yeah. So like I said, we'll dive right in at defensive tackle. The first defensive tackle that will be taken in this year's draft. Anybody following the draft should know Leonard Williams out of USC. Big 6'5", 300-pound defensive lineman, very disruptive, can get in the backfield, get after the quarterback, is very good in the run. A guy that is being compared to a Richard Seymour-esque player would love him in New England. He will most likely be gone, if not top 5. I think he should be the number 2 overall pick. I think he's better than Mariota. I think Tampa Bay needs a quarterback. They will go Winston. I think Tennessee would be smart to take him at number 2 over Mariota, but we'll see.
I mean, yeah, and obviously we're not Titans fans, so we're just looking at them as a broad sense. We're not like our knowledge of the Patriots, where we know exactly the inner workings of the system by now, and we know what they need. So yeah, I would expect him to go top 5 as well. He seems like when you're getting comparisons to Richard Seymour. It's
some serious stuff.
It's a done deal. I don't see. It would be cool to have someone another Richard Seymour on the Patriots, but
yeah, it'd be pretty cool.
Because when you throw that name out, Patriots fans start salivating. But no, I could see him going top 5 as well. If not top 5, someone from the 5 to 10 picks are going to get an absolute steal with
exactly.
that. Absolute steal.
But next from my defensive tackles, I have Danny Shelton out of Washington. We talked about him, I think, last time here on all three phases. Out of Washington, another big, obviously all these guys are big, but 6'2", 340 pounds, another guy who can get in the backfield and get at the quarterback. Not so much, he's pretty good in the run, but not quite as good as Leonard Williams. Like I said, he's more of that interior disruptor. He can, he's decent against the run as well, but more his flair comes from being able to get to the quarterback. I can't see him falling much past 10th. In the draft, honestly. I look at a team like the Chicago Bears, might want to get him, but we'll see. The third guy on my board is where...
This is where it gets interesting.
This is where it gets interesting for me, because a guy that I have really, really liked from the start of this process when
As
I
have
started
I.
to look at prospects. We both have Malcolm Brown out of Texas, the defensive tackle, not the running back, which I had a conversation with a guy on Twitter today about that, talking about Malcolm Brown out of Texas being available at pick 32, and to which he said, yeah, probably in the 5th and 6th round because they have a running back, which isn't obviously rated nearly as high. But Malcolm Brown, big boy, 6'2", 320 pounds. What's interesting with him is that he's got good hand quickness. Say the NFL.com says he uses his hands as an NFL starter, but something to watch out. He isn't quite as strong in the lower body as you'd like in defensive tackle you take with the top 15 pick with a top 15 pick in the NFL draft. So that makes me think that he might slide down some draft boards. His size, he's big, but he's not quite ideal for a defensive tackle. So that's why my number 3 and 4 defensive tackles, I could see them flip-flopping in the draft. 4th, I have Arik Armstead out of Oregon. Actually, Armand Armstead's younger brother, as Patriots fans know, kind of the enigma who never really panned out. But
6'7".
yeah, no, he's huge.
Wow.
What is he, 290? So he doesn't quite have the weight, but he is a huge player. So I can see, I really do think Leonard Williams, Danny Shelton will be the first 2 to go. And after that, if Malcolm Brown does fall into the 20s.
And this is something you and I have been talking about for weeks. We don't know if the Patriots ever do this. But now you think Malcolm Brown is the guy who...
I think this would be one of the most likely candidates that if he falls past 20, they would trade up for and go get him. Because a lot of stuff, I've watched a lot of video on this guy. A lot of these, analysts, I'm not taking everything they say as law, but a lot of them do slate him to being a Vince Wilfork-esque player, that type of guy who can eat blocks.
And that's what I kind of got from when you first sent me his highlight video.
Yep.
It was absolutely incredible to watch. He's
he's
a monster.
Granted, too, I do it just because I like seeing these players, what they can do at their best. Obviously, you got to take highlight videos with a grain of salt because they're highlight videos for a reason. But no, they're fun to watch still. He looks like a guy who can get in the backfield at times. Vince, I praise him. He's an all-time great Patriot. He wasn't a big sack guy. He was quick, but in terms of, getting to the quarterback, he wasn't the best at it. Malcolm Brown, obviously, he's a lot younger, maybe fresher legs. I'm not saying he's going to be a perfect Vince Wilfork replacement, but in terms of where you can get this guy in the draft, where he'll be, what he is, his size, his intangibles, yada, yada, I think that he is probably the closest thing you're going to get realistically in this draft to a guy who can come in and really do a pretty decent job in replacing Vince Wilfork. And another note to watch out for, defensive coordinator Matt Patricia was at Texas's Pro Day, which kind of teases us into thinking
Absolutely, it
that
does.
he is on their radar.
Well, we could guess that really when you're looking to beef up that defensive line with a lack of cornerback strength after letting Revis go, you've got to imagine that basically all these guys are on their radar at least a little bit, but Malcolm Brown should be a little bit closer on their radar in terms of proximity because they might actually be able to get him if he does drop down to that 32nd pick, and if he drops down to the 20th, it would be worthwhile to go get him, in our opinion. Something to look at. I like the NFL.com draft report because it kind of it gives each player a ranking, like a grade, 1 to 10, 5 being should make an NFL roster, 6-ish being should be an instant NFL starter, should have an instant impact on the game. And Malcolm Brown is one of those players who's in the 6 range who could come on and essentially make changes on that team that year. And I would really like to see him as a Patriot. Of course, you can't get too attached to prospects because of the nature of the draft. However, I'm not gonna be not excited if we do end up trading up to get him. It'll be very exciting.
Something also to look out for is they did have a combine interview with Malcolm Brown. Granted, they have combine interviews with a lot of players, but I'm looking at New England NEPatriotsDraft.com. It's a great site for everything draft related, really, obviously with the Patriots as well. But that's definitely something to keep an eye on. The fact that they did have conversation with him, they brought him in, they talked to him. I'm looking at some of these other names that they talked to. not all of them are, outrageous names. They didn't talk to a guy like Leonard Williams. They didn't, big guys that are going to go very early in the draft. They didn't talk to Danny Shelton. So the fact that Malcolm Brown was the guy that they brought in and had an interview with, he is on their radar. I'm not saying that he is going to be a Patriot, but he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. I actually have him as my number one player on my Patriots big board, which you can find later this week at patspropaganda.com. And
is he posting your big board?
He's going to post it right around the same time. Mike DeSalt runs a great site, probably my favorite Patriots blog out there. Every year he puts up a big board. Last year he had Dominic Easley on the top of his big board. Obviously, we all know that he was selected. So
see the sound clip at the beginning of this segment.
Right. So Mike does know his stuff. We actually have a friendly wager to see who can predict the most rookies that come in terms of draft, and I think he gives not quite full-on points for undrafted free agents, but you get credit for calling them. So we'll see. Like I said, he's my number one guy, though. It's kind of a stretch pick. If I would have to say yay or nay right now, I would say that he doesn't fall far enough for them to trade up for him, and obviously I can see him going to a team, a defensive tackle hungry team. Even I'm looking at some of these teams right now. The Chicago Bears. They're a little early, pick 7. They need a defensive tackle. The Atlanta Falcons, they drafted Rashid Hageman last year. There's a ton
I could
of
see
teams.
him fitting in really well with the Bears for some reason. They used to be,
but
a defensive powerhouse.
I will say the Bears, though. I think that Danny Shelton will be available at pick 7, so I could see them going with him. But
yeah, no, Danny Shelton, a guy you already mentioned, and we've really gone through all of these. You really highlighted these four guys who are the top in that position. Who could really make an impact. Arik Armstead is, also a freak of nature.
But the thing about Armstead is he's more of a project. He kind of disappears at times. I think that has to do with his weight. He doesn't quite have the weight to hang in there and play a full 4 quarters.
See, I noticed that with a lot of prospects that you were trying to give me the talk about. I noticed that a couple of them they seemed to have a lot of really good things going for them, and then in their weaknesses is just inconsistency. Yeah. And I think that's just a matter of.
I think that's a college thing.
Yeah, and I think it's just a matter of the Patriots looking at that and saying, okay, who do we think is going to work hard for us, and then they're going to go up and get them, because who knows? It could be someone that we don't even think of getting. Like they could get one of these unhighlighted names, one of these names that you don't really look at as a Patriots fan, looking at their draft prospects and saying, "Oh, I've never heard of this guy before. I wonder if they're going to bring him in and kind of work on him as a project." And they usually do. I know when we eventually get to cornerbacks, I don't know if we'll get to those this week, but a couple of those lower on your big board, I think the Patriots might actually go for instead of one of the top guys. Yeah. But that's just my own personal opinion.
But so those are the guys that are definitely surefire first-round picks, I believe, for defensive tackle. Not saying that some of these other ones won't be first-round picks, but in my second tier of defensive tackles that the Patriots probably are interested in, my first guy, who I think that could be a potential pick at number 32 if he's there.
If Malcolm Brown isn't, if all these people are gone, this is probably your best bet, I think.
Right. I have Jordan Phillips, actually. He is a 6'5", 330-pound defensive tackle out of Oklahoma.
This dude is an absolute monster.
Yeah,
in terms of his size.
I mean, obviously, the main strength there is he's huge. He has big arms.
Yeah.
And an athletic lower body.
Look at the guy. Look, he's huge, absolutely huge. I remember when I looked him up. When I was looking over your notes, I looked at the draft profile and they had his 40. Not only is this guy huge, he looks like he could eat up 3 or 4 tacklers, or 3 or 4 blockers rather. Dude's also got some speed for a big fella. I can't even go that fast, and he's bigger than I am. So, and he's got a lot more to get moving in a shorter amount of time.
Yep.
I really like this guy. I like him also as kind of like that fallback if these big picks that the Patriots might want don't actually come through. If Malcolm Brown goes before pick 20. Which is a very good possibility. Like you said, you don't think he's going to fall. So looking at I feel like Jordan Phillips might be a little bit more likely, and I really like what I'm seeing from him. He's big, fast. He has that that perspective grade on the draft profile of being able to come onto a team and make that instant start. His weaknesses, of course, the consistency. a flash player that can dominate, but will disappear during stretches. And like you said, that might be a college thing.
Yeah, but another thing that really is a red flag for me, in terms of a guy that you will pick in, either the first, obviously it's pretty much the second round, but still, it'd be a first round pick.
Well, when you win the Super Bowl, you kind of get that,
right? So I mean, but he's not really a good pass rusher, and they say that his motor could be improved. I really don't like that. I like guys with a high motor. Dominic Easley, for instance, last year, he's 6'2", 288, but he has a very high motor. When he's in the game, he will play from start of the snap till the final whistle blows. I like that a lot in guys. I don't like guys that are going to give up on plays. Another thing about Phillips that might turn the Patriots off, he might project more to a 3-4 nose tackle.
Yep.
When they play both, but they are more 4-3. We saw them go to 3-4 at the beginning of last year, but they couldn't stop the run as well. Switch back to a 4-3, and then they were fine.
And that's another thing I want to talk about is one of his major weaknesses that it shows is that he's not really that dominant of a pass rusher or any type of rusher. He doesn't stop the run. And I feel like that's kind of what the Patriots are looking for this year. They're looking for that pressure. They're looking to get in the backfield, make some noise, get under the running back and the quarterback's skin to make them throw, a little bit more softly towards the secondary and make it easier for our guys to pick him off. And I feel like he would be that pick. If he's the last one, or if he's the next best one left at the 32nd pick. However, I don't think he's the out of all of them, I don't think he's the most perfect fit. I think he'll be a good fit, but I would prefer someone who's going to be more effective at stopping the run.
Yeah, I actually have Jordan Phillips as my number 5 prospect on my Patriots big board. Like we've said pretty much everything we can about him. I have concerns about him. I'm not quite in love with him like I was with Dominic Easley last year. He'd be a good solid pick, but I don't know how much more he would give you versus a guy like Alan Branch, who you already have on your roster. So if he's available at 32 and they pick him, I won't be upset. But if he's a guy that's available at 32 and they decide to trade back, I won't necessarily be upset either. He'd be a solid addition. He wouldn't be pure Vince Wilfork replacement. I don't think he has quite the intangibles and the motor that Wilfork had, but he still would be a good guy to bring in and help with this defensive line. The next guy I have Carl. Let me see here. These two guys, they're pretty similar to me. I kind of have them pretty close. I have Carl Davis before Eddie Goldman, but both of these guys, they're pretty similar in my book. These are two defensive tackles who, again, they're both big. They both can play in a 3-4, so that gives them a little bit of versatility. Eddie Goldman, 6'4", 336-pound defensive tackle out of FSU.
One of those FSU guys, and I already, not because of that, like him more than Carl Davis, but also the fact that he seems. I like his size. I like the type of player he is. I talk about the pass rushing though. He's not that dominant on that one. He can't really get around. But of course, when you come to a tiebreaker, I'm always going to throw in things that are kind of irrelevant. And the fact that he's from FSU, I'll take as a I'll take as a tiebreaker. But no, I think these two. I don't know if the Patriots would pick them. I feel like if they needed to, I would prefer them picking Goldman, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like he's more NFL ready.
No, I do. I think he's NFL ready. NFL.com's comparison is Randy Starks, the defensive tackle out of Florida, who the Patriots were interested in when he came out of the draft and multiple other times. So that's a good NFL comparison in terms of fitting in with the Patriots.
Yeah, and the FSU guys are always going to be
exactly
NFL ready already. They have a good program down there, especially the linemen, offensive and defensive. I would like to see the Patriots, when we talk about offensive line, there's going to be a couple Seminoles up at the top of my personal list of Seminoles I would like to see come to New England and be on Brady's offensive line next year. But
no, this guy, bang for your buck. If the Patriots trade down, mid-second round, if they decide to take him, I think that he would be a good bang for your buck, mid to late second rounder. He can instantly come in and help stop the run. As a defensive tackle in a 4-3, that's your main priority. Really is to stop the run. Like we said, he isn't gonna put up crazy sack numbers. He's not gonna really get a lot of pressure on the pass route on the quarterback. But in terms of value, if he's available mid to late second round, the Patriots draft him. I think that'd be a good call. Carl Davis, pretty similar player, 6'5", 320. He's actually a very common pick in Patriot mock drafts. Some have him going pick 32 to the Patriots. Some have him going pick 64.
Who?
Carl Davis. Yep. Yeah. Again, similar type of player. He's pretty good at eating up against the run. He's all right as a pass rusher. He's got a little bit more pass rushing ability than a guy like Eddie Goldman. But again, playing in Iowa, Big Ten is a big conference, but you wonder how much the FSU pedigree comes into play there.
I think it should determine a lot because especially in the situation the Pats are in right now, they're looking for someone who's going to come in and instantly make changes in some of those formations. And I feel like someone from FSU, and this isn't just my bias talking, it is that pedigree saying that that's the type of guy you want on your team who's NFL ready straight out of college.
No, definitely. So I actually have Davis ahead of Eddie Goldman on my big board. I have Davis at 15 and Eddie Goldman at 18. So I guess when I did my board, but again, I think these players are pretty close in terms of when you can get them, what type of productivity you'll get from them. Either way, I would be shocked if the Patriots do decide to trade back, if one of these two guys is not a New England Patriot next year. If they can get multiple second-round picks, I would expect either Eddie Goldman or Carl Davis to be on the Patriots, or even if Jordan Phillips does fall into the second round and they can get him, early to mid-second round, one of these three guys is very likely to be a New England Patriot next year.
More likely than, say, Malcolm Brown.
Yes.
And I would like to get Malcolm Brown. That'd be pretty cool. But moving on to the mid round, they got one guy that you're currently interested in. Two guys total that you have up there. Grady Jarrett from Clemson and Gabe Wright from Auburn. You have Grady Jarrett a bit higher on your list, but you do really want to talk about Gabe Wright. You talk about going to big schools and playing in big-time games. Auburn's up there.
Yeah, really quickly on Grady Jarrett, I actually think that they would have to take him earlier than Gabe Wright. I like Grady Jarrett a lot, but again, he's kind of like a Dominic Easley type player, a little bit undersized, but can get after the quarterback. I don't know how many guys you need that fit that type of mold, but a guy that, if he is available in the third round, would provide pretty good value. Gabe Wright actually is a guy that I'm pretty fond of, and the Patriots definitely have him on his radar. They talked to him. Actually, they put him through a private workout at the Auburn Pro Day, so that kind of goes to show that they really do have their eye on him.
Yeah, and another big issue with him is consistency. We've seen that a lot with these defensive linemen that we've been looking at, these tackles and these defensive ends that we're eventually going to look at. That was one of the big things with them, is always the inconsistency, not being able to. It says right here for Gabe Wright, doesn't play with consistent power behind his pads. So we'll have to see if the Patriots will. Obviously, they're going to take a chance on some of these guys.
Yeah,
because that seems to be a college issue.
He's kind of a sleeper guy, though. Not a lot of. I've read a couple articles of draft sleepers and mid-round guys who could be instant impactful players, and Gabe Wright is a common pick in there. He, like you said, he comes from a big school. He's played in big games. He plays in the SEC, which is obviously pretty tough. So we'll see. I think that he would be very good, third, fourth round, that range where they could get him if they decide to address other needs earlier in the draft, or just pick the best available player, which they normally do. But Gabe Wright could be a very solid addition. In terms of size, he's not overly huge. I mean, 6'3", 300 pounds is probably your average defensive tackle size. He isn't going to, necessarily go in there and look like an anchor on a defensive line. But
not like a Will Fork type of guy.
No. So, but he would definitely be a good addition. Probably one of my more intriguing potential Patriot picks. I think that they are interested in him, and like I said, it's all about value with Bill Belichick. And if he can get a guy that he can plug in on day one, if he can get him in the third or fourth round, you look at a guy who they got in the fourth round last year, Brian Stork, other side of the ball, but was a key kingpin on the offensive line. So, but really quickly, Grady Jarrett, I have him 28th on my Patriots big board, and Gabe Wright, I have 33rd.
And then just a quick another sleeper pick. You've got a category called "Who did they just draft?" type of guys, and David Perry from Stanford meets your requirements for nose tackle.
Yeah, guy, he's a former walk-on. He's got a big chip on his shoulder. He plays with it. He's a little bit undersized, though, but he fights really hard. He's got a nasty attitude. The Patriots love that kind of stuff. He very well could be available. He'll be available late in the draft, either 6th or 7th round pick, maybe even as an undrafted free agent. I believe that they have had talks with him. I'll bring up any.
Yeah, that seems like the type of player they'd want to go after. So
they have had unconfirmed contact with him, according to New England Patriots Draft, anypatriotsdraft.com. But he is a guy to keep an eye on. I'm not saying they're definitely going to get him, but I like throwing in some guys that are kind of very under the radar.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Squeeze them in there
because
see
that's what Bill likes to do.
Exactly.
With the 21st pick in the 2012 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Chandler Jones, defensive end, Syracuse.
Now we transition with a little bit of time left. We're going to quickly go over some defensive ends on your big board, Cody. And one of the names we'll really be focusing on, I'll get to when we get to him. But
yeah, we'll talk.
He's kind of one of those first and second round guys. But there are two guys on your list who you think are going to be gone by the Patriots' 32nd pick.
Yeah, I like to touch on kind of the rows of the class. I guess I'll say, the kingpin, and that's Dante Fowler out of Florida. Great defensive end. He will most likely be gone top 5. I'm not going to talk about him too much. But another name, Randy Gregory out of Nebraska. He actually just failed his combine drug test, so that might make him drop a little bit. He's more of a 3-4 outside linebacker, but he's technically listed as a defensive end. I don't think he would be quite a scheme fit in New England if he would fall all the way to 32, but I can't imagine him going down that far. I think there's a lot of teams like San Diego and Pittsburgh that actually are bringing him in for visits now that he failed that drug test and he might fall. But again, those are the two names that most likely will go towards the top of the draft. Randy Gregory, maybe a name for Patriots fans to keep an eye on, but I don't really think so.
Yeah, and then in that group of first, second round guys who might fall to that 32nd pick, guys who might fall past it. The number one name on out of your 3 for that one is quite a name, hard name to say. I usually try to go for it. Oamagbe Odigizua out of UCLA. Guy looks absolutely incredible as a defensive end. He's got everything you want. Big hands, got the weight on him. He's 6'3", 267. Not as heavy as you kind of want him to be, but he's a defensive end, so he's not really going to be that guy who's plugging up the holes. He's going to be trying to go. He's going to be trying to go for the quarterback, and I think that my biggest issue with Odigizua is the fact that he's not that good of a pass rusher, which I've mentioned is something that I think the Patriots should be looking for this year. He usually doesn't win around the corner, which is, I guess, an issue. I mean, you got to get to the quarterback any way you can if you're going to be a defensive end who's going to, rush the pass. I think that the Patriots might overlook that and take him anyway. He looks like a very impressive pick. We talk about going to big schools. UCLA is a decently sized school. They play decently sized games. He's not as NFL ready as the NFL website wants him to be in terms of, or where we would want him to be. He's at like a 5.79, which is up there. He has a very good chance to make a roster, possible chance to start. I personally like him. I feel like in training camp he could work out any issues he has. But yeah, what I see at face value, I kind of like it. If he's there by that first pick and all these other options are gone, I would say go for him.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. He's one of my favorite players in this draft. I have him 6th on my big board. Not really a position of need per se at defensive end. You kind of have Chandler Jones, Rob Ninkovich, and now Jabal Sheard at that position. I don't know how much playing time he could have, but Owa Odigizua is a very, very great athletic specimen, honestly.
Yeah,
and
he had a great. I think his just straight down the field speed on his 40. I think
4.6 for his 40.
Yeah, I know
and I
turned
think
some
that
heads.
was the fastest. That was the top performer in the combine at his position. He also had a
30, you look at his other stuff.
There you go. He's got 39-inch vertical jump, 127-inch broad jump, and a 4.19 20-yard shuffle, and 11.75 60-yard shuffle. All those being the best in the class for defensive ends. But I look at him as a Jamie Collins-esque project player. Phenomenal athlete, would need time to adjust to the system and adjust to NFL playing style. We've seen Bill Belichick take guys like that are just super athletes and turn them into, Jamie Collins is arguably one of the best young linebackers in the NFL today. So I think this is a guy who the Patriots could very well be interested in. I hope that they are. Obviously, he has probably the coolest name in this draft
Oh,
class.
absolutely. And I actually nailed it the first time I tried it on the recording. I've been stumbling over it for the past 3 days. I'm Agbay.
He did have a combine interview with the Patriots. Again, they bring in a lot of guys for interviews, but they have had contact with him. I think that he would be a very good player in this defense, but again, I don't know if the need is there at 32 to take a defensive end.
Yeah, there's some two others in this first, second round type of bracket that you also brought up. One of the other ones you really want to talk about, Danielle Hunter out of LSU, and then just as an afterthought, kind of Preston Smith out of Mississippi State also falls in that category. What are your thoughts on Hunter out of LSU?
Yeah, Hunter, he's very fast. That was one of the things that I liked about him. He had a 4.57 40-yard dash, which is phenomenal. Actually, I don't know why it says that Owa had the fastest 40-yard dash.
I don't think it means it's the fastest. I think it means he was like in the top 5.
Okay. Well, anyway, so that's what instantly drew me into Danielle Hunter. He's 6'5", 252, could probably put on a little bit more weight. He's drawing a lot of comparisons to Jason Pierre-Paul, who obviously is a phenomenal defensive end. He's actually very good against the run. He's almost better against the run than he is against the pass, which is one of Chandler Jones's biggest issues that we have with him is the fact that he doesn't defend against the run as well as you would like a defensive end, and every down defensive end too. And honestly, I think Danielle Hunter is a guy that could be had in the mid to late second round. And I think if the Patriots do draft him, that would be a sign that maybe Chandler Jones is not going to be around much longer after the 2015 season. He could be an instant replacement for him. Preston Smith from Mississippi State is another guy, same type of idea. He's that big, long defensive end type player, 6'5", 271, got a little bit more meat on him. Both of these guys are solid pass rushers. Preston Smith, one of the things about him, though, is he doesn't quite get his speed going quite as early. He's not as fast as Danielle Hunter's 4.7 40. Obviously, that doesn't mean a whole lot, but 7.07 on the 3-cone drill. Bill Belichick loves 3-cone drill. The fact that he's almost under 7 as a 6'5", 271-pound defensive end is, pretty telling. And something to think about when I look at these defensive ends is Nick Caserio, the director of player personnel, actually had a video go online. I think it's on Patriots.com, but he talked about what he looks for in his defensive ends, and length and speed and arm size are arm length, I should say, are really some key things that he looks at. That's why they took a guy like Chandler Jones. They traded up for him in the 2012 NFL draft. So I think Danielle Hunter and Preston Smith are two guys to keep an eye on. I think Owa Odigizua would most likely be gone late first, early second. He doesn't have quite the length. He's 6'3". He's got the weight to really hammer down as a defensive end, but again, I think the second round is really where the Patriots are going to do their damage in this draft. Both of those guys are names to remember as Patriots fans. Really quickly, I have Danielle Hunter as one of my favorite prospects in this draft. I have him at number 17 on my big board, and I have Preston Smith at 19.
And now we get to the part of the show where we just talk about completely pointless things that have to do with the NFL. Going back to the NFL owners meeting this week, it was proposed, I believe, by the Colts. Don't take that as law because I can't remember who it was.
It was the Colts.
It was the Colts. All right, so I was right in that one, saying that they were trying to implement a new rule that would create a 9-point touchdown where you score a touchdown, go for a 2-point conversion, and then if you make that 2-point conversion, you can kick an extra long kick for the extra point. I think
it's like a 50-yard field goal for another point.
Yeah. And I just think it's kind of silly. I don't see why they would bring it up. I just thought it was just a funny thing to bring up.
Yeah, it's just Colts doing Colts things. They should just make the rule how they can beat the Patriots in the playoffs because obviously they figured it out. I think only once.
Yeah, it's been a while since they've beaten the Patriots.
I think it was.
Have they beaten the Patriots in the playoffs with Andrew Luck at the helm?
No, they've never. The Patriots have never lost to Andrew Luck. Period.
Oh, really? Well, there you go. And that was a short clip. And another short one, Tom Coughlin, our beloved friend over at the Giants.
I like Tom Coughlin. He's a good guy.
I
know. You just need to. Tom Coughlin's a good coach.
No, I'm not saying he isn't. I'm saying when his job is in danger, his team kind of riles up underneath him and they carry him to a Super Bowl when they arguably should or should not be in that Super Bowl. The year that they lost to the Redskins twice comes to mind, but. Nonetheless, salty Pats fan stuff aside, Tom Coughlin having a little bit of fun, and I mean that completely sarcastically, with Siri. And you wanted to talk about this one because I know You don't really like Siri.
No, I don't
either.
like Siri either. I feel
Quote,
his pain.
If I could quote the Tom Coughlin, he says he quote hates I don't trust the lady on GPS, and I honestly agree. I mean, I have an older iPhone, so Siri doesn't work quite as well. This was I'm pretty sure this was the first iPhone with Siri, the 4S.
Yeah.
So I've got like the super old one, and she just doesn't work right all the time.
Yeah, no, I have I have the 5C, so I have Siri on mine, and it seems like every time it's in my pocket, if I move just right, it hits the button and it holds the center button down, so then it goes off and it says, "Oh, I didn't get that," or it calls someone randomly for me.
Yeah, I think my favorite is when it happens in class. Like I drop something and then I have to like bend over to get it, and like I'm a big guy, so like my pants get super tight when I bend over, and then it pushes the button and it's like, doop.
Yeah.
And everyone just looks at me. Someone did that in class the other day in like a 300-person lecture hall, and it was hilarious because the professor was just lecturing, and all of a sudden you hear, "I'm sorry, I couldn't get that."
Yeah, so I feel Tom Coughlin's pain. I really... I got a good laugh out of that, the fact that he doesn't trust the lady in the iPhone. You know what, Tom? I don't trust her either. We should just get rid of her for good. And I hate how you can shut her off, but then the audio control is on, or the audio feedback type thing is on. So it's pretty much Siri without the woman's voice. It's just another, you hold the center button down and it listens to what you say and just does what you want. But
so long story short, technology is ruining America.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it for episode 3. Thank you for listening. We'll be back again. This is going to be an early episode this week. Next episode next week will be a little bit later, as we will both be out of town Monday morning. So we'll have to do that in the afternoon. But thanks again for listening. I'm Brandon Poli.
And I'm Cody LaChance.
And we'll see you next week. Go Pats.
New England, the Patriots and me, rolling on to victory.
So let's just dive right into it.
Yeah, actually, I should get my laptop out.